Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of Money with Alpha. Today, I want to talk about something that's come up a number of times in the last few weeks. I'm on the back end of quite a few International Women's Day events. So, I've been talking to a lot of women around money, and I spoke at one of the events as well, which stimulated a lot more questions and conversations too. So, it's really, really interesting. I find whenever I'm in the room and women know that I'm a money sort of person, so I'm a wealth educator, but specifically they come along and they're very like quietly ask the questions that they don't know to ask anyone else. They're like, so what do I do here? And one of the questions that sort of has come up in a number of different ways, but essentially it's the same question is, how do I know what to do next? Like, how do I know how to prioritize what I'm doing with money? What should I do next, or what should I do now, or what should I do in general? This is the probably the main question that I get. I get a lot of, oh, I'm not good with money, or I can almost tell when there's like a bit of a wall, and then there's that whole, yeah, I'm good, I'm fine. And I can tell by like the clenched jaws, like, okay, I don't think that's the full thing, but that's all right. Maybe not ready to talk about it. Totally okay. But in terms of that feeling of sort of pressure and stress and that insecurity or that does not wanting to look silly or feel vulnerable and ask questions is extremely common. So if this is something you experience, it is very, very normal, very understandable, and very common. But so I thought today I'm going to actually answer this question in my podcast because you may be thinking it too, or you might know another woman or women who might be having the same questions and don't really know what to do about it. So obviously I can't talk to any specific examples because I'm just talking based on multitude of conversations. But the three things that I would do when I'm asked well, that I would answer when I'm asked this question is, where are you feeling the stress most right now? What sort of goals do you have? Have you set any? If not, it's time to start setting some, and we'll talk through that. If you have some, when was the last time you looked at them and did a bit of a mini review of your goals? And then thirdly, look at your habits. Are they supporting the goals that you want and the lifestyle that you want? So it sounds quite simplistic and it's only three things, but it's really, really powerful. And that first one, I'll go into each of these in a bit more detail now, but that first one, where are you feeling the most stress? And that's, when there's you're trying to find priorities because our attention is so scattered. There's so many lists. I literally have a planner with lists. I have other written out lists. I have reminders in my phone. I have calendar entries. I have so many different lists. I have lists in Trello. Where else do I have lists? I've got lists. I feel like I've got lists upon lists upon lists. And then I've got diaries, I've got planners, I've got like a weekly one, I've got a monthly one, then I've got annual, and then I've got my vision board. So there's all the stimulation everywhere. And that is just our world. Then there's all of the other things that come in. There's the request for things or the client work that comes in, the business development that you have to do in order to get more clients, and then the networking, and then of course you're out. Like I've been out probably for the best part of the last week. And I'm like playing catch up. Like I literally feel like somebody gave the analogy of a swan recently, and I was like, yeah, I can really relate to that. Looking very serene and put together on the surface, and underneath the little legs are just like paddling away because they're like, oh my God, I've got to like keep up here, but I still need to look like I have it all together. We don't all have it all together all the time. I certainly don't at the moment either. I'm planning a launch party for my app, Prosperous, which you may have heard me mention. And so I keep coming with ideas, which is why I had to create a Trello board. So I was like, oh, what about this? And all about this. And I was like, oh, and I could showcase other business ladies I know like this. And then I was like, okay, just like take it down a notch. And then I'm like, oh, and I could find this merch, and oh, there's this, and oh, this is really cool. And there's something I'm trying to source at the moment, which I would love to have, but I'm just still trying to figure out how to make it work in terms of where I'm getting it from and also the financial cost of it. But it'd be really fun and cool. Even to the point where when I was getting some merch recently and they had like, when you go into Vistaprint and those places and they have, oh, and while you're here, would you like this? Well, I clicked on one of those and I ended up with a mouse pad. If you're watching this, I've just shown you the mouse pad. But my old one was actually so old that I was finding it hard to actually move around. So it was perfect timing. Now I have a nice brand new prosperous mouse pad. It's kind of fun. Anyway, I digress. Back to the topic. So, where are you feeling that most stress at the moment? Is it day-to-day bills? Is it in, trying to pay school fees? Like where is that stress? And acknowledge it and then see if there's anything you can do to help with it. Is there a payment plan for whatever it happens to be at the moment? Are there ways, like I've literally had about 4 sessions with clients in the last probably 10 days, and every single one of them has needed help with stripping day-to-day expenses. I actually have somebody I refer people to for that, and his specialization is actually finding the better deals for things like health insurance, house insurance, contents, car insurance, mobile phone plans. I know there's a few different things, but it's a lot of those like household day-to-day things. So he takes the legwork out of it, which is why I love when he started to do this as an additional service to his own business. I was like, oh my God, that's fantastic. I've got so many people who could use that. But it's something that and alleviating things like that, like you can find hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. I remember when I used to do this a bit more with my clients. Now I can outsource that to somebody else. But when I used to do that, literally the average I would help people find in a year would be $2,500 to $3,000. Now that is significant. Like I mean, it could be a holiday, but it could also just mean, being able to pay a few bills without defaulting on the time or, paying it by the due date and not having to accrue extra interest. It's enough to actually make an impact. So, where are you most stressed like now, right now, and figure out if there is a way to alleviate that. If it's mortgage, chat to mortgage broker. If you would like some recommendations, I have curated a referral circle of people that I really trust and I value and I respect what they do and how they do it. I work with people who are very human. This isn't just about the money, although money is kind of the byproduct, but it's making sure that you get the right result for you. So if there's areas like that you would like some help in, please contact me and I'm happy to refer you on to the specialists who are good at what they do and might be able to actually help you save some money. So that's probably the first one because there is an element of survival that goes with money. There are ways to do things with money that you won't even notice. And that's one of the things that I will be going through in Her Prosperity Collective, which sits alongside Prosperous as the app, but it's the community that I'm building. I want women to be able to have a safe place to go, to be able to ask questions, learn, become educated around money, become educated about how to build wealth and the sequencing of what to do, the areas that you need to be aware of, and the specialists that you might need to engage at some point to find out more. So you want this is the whole reason I do what I do is like community and connection are very important to me. So that's why I'm encouraging you to ask questions and to reach out if there's a topic that you'd like, or you want to know who can help you with something if I don't know the answer or that's not my area. So that's probably the first one really my answer if you're, where should I start? I was like, well, what is causing the most stress? And a little bit of overarching review of finances is always a good thing, like gaining a bit more visibility about where the money is going and what's also coming in. And that's the whole reason I built the Prosperous app is to give that level of visibility because it's really hard otherwise. Banks don't provide this information in a way that's easy to digest. And then it's the how do you take that information and then connect it with the other parts of your life to be able to allow you to see the possibilities of what money can do for you. That is a huge part of it, the possibility thinking. And that's what I built into the app is being able to allow you to see scenarios and what's possible so that you know if you did something now and then based on certain assumptions, like in terms of rates of return and length of time, you can see what the possibility of the result could be so that you are clearer on the decisions that you want to make in the here and now. I get very passionate about this. So, and then the second thing I mentioned is setting and or reviewing some goals. So I had a session earlier today actually with some new clients and they had their goals. It actually made the conversation so much easier. I was amazed at how quickly we like dived into the detail and they're like sponges as we started to go through all of this because they had their goals. Had some clarity. They just had kind of bolted things on into their life over time, so they couldn't see the bigger picture. And then they had some information and knowledge gaps, and I could fill in some of those. And then others they needed to find out a bit more. Like I referred them to a mortgage broker, and then there's someone to help them with property management. So it's understanding what could they actually do, and then once they have that additional information, understand if the goals that they'd set were realistic or if they need to make some adjustments. So setting the goals is an important first step because then you know what questions to ask, or at least you can say, I have a gap in this area of my knowledge. Who do I talk to fill that gap? And sometimes it's me, and sometimes it'll be someone else that I can refer to. But at least having that goal allows you to have the conversation rather than it just like pondering and sitting in your head and you're like, I'd love to do that. I wonder if I could do that. Could I? Hmm. Oh, it's not possible. I won't even think about it. But then it's mulling around in your mind and mulling and mulling and mulling until at some point you verbalize it to someone. And that someone has to be the right person. Because if you verbalize it to someone who's like, oh no, who do you think you are? You could never do that. And I have heard this come from clients where they've verbalized some of their goals around property investment and they got the who do you think you are response from a family member. That just makes me feel sad because I was like, okay, just because they're family doesn't mean they're going to get what it is that you're trying to do. And usually it's envy and jealousy sitting behind that because they would probably want to do the same thing and they do not have the guts to do it. So they're now pulling their family member down. So be very discerning in who you talk to about things like this. Make sure you're asking questions of the right people and somebody who's done it before. Rather than, sharing your hopes and dreams with, money dreams with somebody who's never really actually progressed financially, they'll have no perspective to add to it anyway, and they'll talk you out of it. And maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's not, but you at least need to understand what your options are. So start to write down pen and paper, the best direct link between your brain and then our hands. It's much easier and well, not much easier, but it's much faster and more effective than just typing. And then it's on a sheet of paper. You can sticky tape it somewhere and you can just like ponder it. You can start the process and just start writing it down and then think about it. And you're like, do I really want that? Because sometimes what comes out when we start to write down our goals is what we think we want or what we should want or what we've read at our age we should want or where we should be. And they never work because we're not aligned with them. And then comes that whole, see, I knew it wouldn't work because, nothing like that ever, I'm not good with money. Like, well, you may have just picked the wrong goal. It might not have been a goal that you actually wanted and that was aligned with your lifestyle and your personality. I know I spent a few years trying to kind of go a bit uphill. I thought, oh, I'll get into some like property development, and then it just didn't seem to like click into place. Stuff would fall through, and I was giving this example earlier. I was trying to do a property development on a block that my grandmother had lived on. My mum and I were trying to sort of optimize this so that there would be more money available for her care because we didn't know how long we needed to care for her. And we thought, oh, if we could get things going within 18 months, then, whatever it is, we got kind of shot down at the beginning because of zoning. But then 5 years later, I drove past because I thought, oh, I'll just have a look at my grandma's old house. She'd since passed away and the house was gone. And there were 4 units, or a block of units actually set up there. And I thought, right, so the zoning thing wasn't the issue. It just wasn't the right thing. And then I realized it was a good thing it didn't work because it probably would have completely stressed me out having debt and all of the other things that go with it and all the moving parts and it wasn't something that I 100% understood either. So that's probably a lesson there was don't invest in something you don't really understand. Just buying and selling property was fine, but having to actually do development applications and all of that, I was having to rely on someone else, which when I look back, I was like, Probably wasn't the right person to rely on there. So review your goals, write them down, and then go back. And when you're fresh in the morning, just read them again. And then finally, look at your habits. Just notice, and it's not just your physical habits around money, like in terms of what do you do or feel like when you get the a bill in the mail or the email, because these days they're not, you get electronic copies of bills, not just paper. What do you do? Do you just like let it sit there and then it falls further and further down in your inbox until the point where you get an alert that says, "Oh, it's overdue," and you're like, "Oh, crap, I forgot about it," because you kind of like pushed it aside. I think we've all been there, by the way. And or are you like, do you pay it super duper quickly? I'm to be honest, I'm a little bit in between. I look at the best time of the month from a cash flow perspective and the interest that I could earn, and I make sure I pay it at the beginning of a month rather than the end of a month because I'm like, oh, I've spent this whole month earning interest. I don't want to pay it until that month is over, and then I've earned interest on the entire amount for the month. So, and that's a question I get a lot from clients as well is, oh, do you use a credit card? Hey, is it a good thing? And I was like, well, I personally do use one. I use it not 100% of the time, but I use it on things that I like, bigger things. And then I have that one bill that I pay at the end of the month. And it's always paid out in full before the due date. So I'm not incurring any interest. So from a cash flow management perspective, that is a tool that I do use. But it's a question I get a lot. So look at the habits that you have around money. Are they supporting your goals? If you've got goals where you want to progress and build wealth, but you've constantly got late fees on your bills, or you're collecting more afterpays or buy now, pay later kind of things, or you've got more credit cards and personal debt, those habits are not going to support a goal that you might have when it comes to money, which is also adding to the stress that you're feeling. So it all starts to compound. And if the habits aren't supporting you, then you need to start looking at why. There might be some self-worth issues sort of sitting in there. There might be some belief systems that you might need to work on. And it's important to be aware of it because that is the first step, becoming aware of it. Otherwise, day to day things like time passes, we just keep doing the same thing over and over again. I got into that as well. Like my mother lived on credit cards when I was in my teens. After she and my father split, she wasn't earning nearly as much as he was. There wasn't much money coming in. Managing money was not something she'd ever learned how to do because when she was a kid and then even in her 20s, her mother controlled the finances. Even when she got paid, her mother controlled it. She wasn't allowed to even learn how to manage her own money. I couldn't even imagine that. Like, I was like, if anybody had tried to do that to me in my 20s, I say that, right now, like in hindsight. But I don't know in reality what would have happened if my mother was that controlling, which she wasn't. She learned from her mother's mistakes and or situation and then corrected them when she was a mum, especially in that regard. But she had no idea what to do because she'd never had to really manage it. And then I started to repeat those habits in my 20s. I had some credit card debt and I'm like, oh, I don't want to go there. But I thankfully became aware of it sooner and then was able to do something about it. And then I made sure that I put habits in place that I wouldn't get back there again. So that's why the habits part is really, really important. And then the belief systems around this and the believing that you are capable of doing it, which you are. I don't even like, I could be caught talking to a complete stranger and I know that you can do it, but it doesn't matter what I know because I know every single human, especially women, are capable of managing money well and not just well enough to be wealthy. But you've got to start to believe that first and then adjust your habits bit by bit to support that so that you can have the goals and then start achieving them. They can just be little ones. Like it literally, a goal could be put $10 a month into micro investing or $10 a month into a savings account. And then you build that up and then you get to $100 and you're like, wow, I can actually do this. I can do the things that I set out to do. And your confidence and your ability to rely on yourself that you're going to do the things that you tell yourself you're going to do starts to grow. Then the momentum kicks in. And once you start to pick up on that, you'll want more. You'd be like, oh, what can I do? What else can I do? What other goals can I have? What can I achieve? I really firmly believe that I can do this now. So, and it just starts small. And then that stress starts to fade away and you start to feel more empowered. So that's what I would answer. Obviously, if I was in a conversation with somebody a lot shorter about what to do to prioritize things with your money. So focus on the areas that you're feeling stressed first and work on fixing your financial ecosystem around that. Secondly, set and or review the goals that you have around money and growing some financial independence and resources. And then thirdly, look at the habits that you have around money and whether or not they're supporting the goals that you have and the results that you get from that. So, with that, I'll let you ponder because that was a bit of a thoughtful episode today. If you have any questions, or please reach out if you want to know who else to talk to with a certain problem. If I can't answer it, I will find someone who can. And I will catch you in next week's episode.